and finished vehicle logistics. That's 3B in another room. And here we're going to be talking about supply chain optimization. I guess a quick housekeeping note before we kick off. You'll see in front of you that there's some feedback forms. Please do, by the end of the conference or before you plan to leave, take some time to fill that in, whether that's today or tomorrow. We really, as we always say, we really value your feedback and input on putting this event together. Everything from the location to the topics that we cover, to the people we put on stage, to the look and feel of it. So we take very seriously what you say, and do hand them in. There will be a prize draw at the very end of the conference for those of you who stick around and put forward your views. We also, after next session, we'll come back, I think, together for one session, and then after that we'll have the gala dinner. I think it's at the Westin Hotel. If any of you are driving or interested to drive, you can pick up directions at the registration desk, but there will be coaches ready to take you to the Westin immediately after the last session. So we look forward to seeing you there. Okay, I think so far today, this morning, we've taken fairly high-level views, right? In the first session, we heard about the market overview from IHS, for example. You know, India heading back, hopefully, to stronger growth. We had some interesting news on draft legislation bill, which could really transform some aspects of how India regulates road safety, as well as it manages its freight and transport network. And then last session before lunch, we had Nigel Harris, the president of Ford India, giving us, I guess you could say, the view from the top here and the implications and impacts of logistics from his perspective. So I say quite high level. Now this session we have a chance to go into like the nitty gritty of the supply chain, the packaging, the optimization, the design, trucking strategies, etc. We've got a really packed panel for you, so I don't want to take too much of time, so we give everybody the chance to have their 15 minutes of fame up here. But you know, I think it touches upon everything that we've been talking about so far. I mean, logistics really is in many ways the driver of productivity in manufacturing and distribution, whether it's the way you present material to the line side, choosing between kitting strategies, just in time, just in sequence. These have huge implications for a plant's flexibility, for its capacity, and indeed for its costs and overall productivity. And these are the kind of topics that, you know, from a variety of viewpoints today we'll have a chance to hear from, including car makers, tier suppliers, and logistics providers and packaging providers. So let me take a moment to introduce the panel before we kick off. Thank you very much to have Milind Wadke here, General Manager for Center of Excellence Packaging of Mahindra. We also have Mayank Agarwal, Corporate Sourcing Head at Minda Corporation. Naveen MP, the Head of Automotive Sector India for DHL Supply Chain. Colin Howard, Sales Director at Goodpack. And Hari Sivaprakasam, the CL&D Director for India at UTI Automotive. Sorry for the short intro, but in the interest of time, we'll let them all go into a bit more detail themselves. So I'd now like to invite Milind up to the stage.
Thank you, Christopher. As you all know, and we experience in our day-to-day life, that supply chain is becoming very complex day by day. And it is becoming difficult to manage and more complicated. So companies initiate a lot of efficiency improvement measures to control cost or reduce the cost of operation. And my presentation is based on this. So if we look at various elements of supply chain, there is a supply chain exists because there is a product. It has got specific demand for that product. To meet that demand, part suppliers are located outside company who supply part regularly at certain frequency. There are inventories managed in inside company or outside warehouse for managing the line production. Then when the goods are ready at supplier end, it is packed by supplier, it is transported with a normal logistic arrangement, and if there is a returnable packaging involved, then there is a return management of packaging. So most often our supply chain manager do not have any control or very little control on product demand or customer demand and supplier location, and most of his time is consumed in managing inventory, managing frequency of material, ordering for material to get in time. But packaging, logistics, return management, these are the areas, these are relatively unfocused area for any supply chain manager, and these areas have huge potential for optimization. So we at Mahindra & Mahindra optimize this area by improving part to pack efficiency, pack to truck efficiency, or by eliminating or optimizing return management. So how do we do that? Do we select all part for improvements? The answer is no. We select part on certain criteria, and this criteria we have debated internally and decided that after changing any packaging, there should be a cause for change. After changing any packaging, if there is a quality improvement, sustainability improvement, ergonomic improvement, as well as logistic and packaging cost reduction. So we ensure that all these 4 criteria, or if not, at least 3 criteria are met. And we go ahead with the change in packaging and logistic arrangement. So how do we do that? We do that by improving part to pack efficiency. In this, what I mean, for a given part, how do we concentrate the quantity? How do we increase quantity per pack? This we generally do by rearrangement, resizing, rearrangement of separators. Sometimes we remove separator also. We have found that separators are given for protection, but it is a overkill packaging. And we have noticed, even if we remove separator, it doesn't matter. Also, we do some resizing of packaging, or we change structure, and sometimes we go for a total concept change from like expendable to returnable packaging. To improve pack to truck efficiency, we increase number of pack per pallet, we increase pallets per truck, or packaging units per truck, by redesigning this packaging to different sizes or modifying this packaging. We select adequate size of truck. That means today if I am using 18-feet truck, maybe by increasing 1 or 2 more length of truck dimension, and I am able to accommodate 2 more units of the packaging, it helps me. So that way we optimize pack to truck quantity, and at the same time we standardize dimension to the most commonly used truck dimensions. So as I said earlier, when we go for returnable, there are certain selection factors which we consider. If we find there is a lot of waste generation on line side, there are transit damages, there are shrinkages of existing expendable packaging. If we experience that expendable packaging is very costly, it is overkilled, then we change over to returnable. And if there is a significant need of hygiene on line side. For example, engine assembly line, where we cannot allow cardboard packaging to go freely on line side. So there we go for returnable packaging. And at the same time, we ensure that if we convert it to returnable packaging, whether my return management is practically feasible or not, and is it hassle-free. So these are the different options for returnable packaging. One, we use two of these options. One is own managed, which is very conventional approach, own managed by supplier or OEM. And second option is rented by supplier from third-party pooling company. And we are expanding in this area nowadays, and we find a lot of benefit of using this kind of returnable packaging. If you see this, see the flow on this slide. In own management, it is a conventional flow. Supplier fill material in packaging. He supplies to our plant. When it becomes empty, we send back to supplier. This kind of packaging we mostly adopt for specific parts, specific packaging, where and large size packaging, where we don't have any packaging, standard packaging available in the market from third-party pooling company. And mainly this is used for body panels. If you see rented packaging, in this concept, the third-party pooling company issue empty packaging to our supplier from his nearest service center. Supplier fill those packaging with a component, send it to our plant with a normal logistic arrangement. When it becomes empty, the third-party pooling company takes away packaging from our plant, and they manage themselves, whatever return management or maintenance. So we find a lot of advantage of this concept. So what are the advantage? First and foremost, there's no hassle of return management for us. There's no maintenance for us. Neither we maintain this packaging nor our supplier maintain. The third-party pooling company maintains this packaging. These packagings are owned by equipment pooling company. So we save on a lot of capex for packaging. We get standard footprint, but with this we have certain limitation. Whatever available with this third-party pooling company, these are some limited standard. So we try to use this kind of parts packaging for most of the proprietary parts. But when it comes to larger parts, body panels, then we become handicapped. We can't use this kind of packaging. And the last important benefit is, if there is, by chance, there is any drop in volume, then we don't have botheration of keeping this packaging in our plant or a supplier plant. This is taken away by packaging supplier. Further, if we can't manage with the third-party pooling company, and we have our own packaging for special parts, then we see that these packagings are optimized. They are designed to the most commonly used truck dimensions, and in return they are foldable. Generally, this folding ratio is 1:3 or 1:4. So with this principle, we have decided certain sizes of packaging, and we have standardized on this packaging. I can share this in our roundtable conference, but my sincere request to all participants from OEM packaging suppliers, that if we come together and do some standardization, maybe we all can benefit from this type of concept, and we can ask pooling companies to design a specific range of packaging. Thank Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Milind. I think that's a great message to kind of start us off there. Just looking at the variety of standards and how the industry, if it worked together, could probably do something that would benefit everybody. So I'm sure there'll be more to talk about on that, if not on this stage, then certainly afterwards. Next up, I'd like to invite Mayank Agarwal from Minda Corporation.
Good afternoon, everybody. The topic which I am going to cover is about the supply chain optimization. Before starting the topic of supply chain optimization, let me take the opportunity to introduce myself. I am Mayank Agarwal, working for the Minda Corporation Limited, and to brief you about the group overview. What is our Minda Group all about? Probably most of people might not be knowing about the Minda Corporation. What is Minda Group all about? Basically, we are the part of the Ashok Minda Group. It is a leading automotive manufacturer, component manufacturer. It was founded in 1958 by late Shri Shadilal Minda ji, and we have total 32 plants put together India and globally, and a total of approximately 11,200 employees as on date. And we have a strong customer base for all the vehicle segments, whether it is two-wheeler, three-wheeler, four-wheeler, irrespective of it, both in India as well as abroad. And our group turnover for 2013-14 was $3,000 crore rupees, and the US dollar was $500 million US. And as far as joint venture and collaborations are concerned, we are having the joint ventures with our all global leaders, mainly Furukawa of Japan, Stonebridge of USA, Yushin of Japan. Earlier it was Value of France. Our Minda Value name has been changed, but it is in the process of changing because collaboration has been completed. Then Silica of Italy, which is a major manufacturer of the keys in the world. And then Uzbekistan, we have a collaboration. And Orbiter of Australia, we are having the collaboration. And we are having total 27 plants in India, 5 plants in abroad. And we have our representation office in Russia and engineering and marketing office in Japan. And these are the various product lines as on date what we are manufacturing. We are basically in the security systems. Security system. We are supplying to all the two-wheeler, three-wheeler, four-wheeler, off-market, off-the-road vehicles. Everywhere we are supplying it. Minda Corporation basically is supplying to the two-wheeler industry, and through our Minda Value company, we are supplying it to four-wheeler and the off-road vehicles. Then we are the instrument panel. We are in the interior designing of the vehicles, and more and over that, we are having one separate division called aftermarket, which is taking the product of all the units and selling it to the local market. And these are all the various companies. Say Minda Management Services Limited is our corporate office. Minda Corporation Limited, to whom I am representing. Then Minda Value, Minda Silica, who is the key manufacturer. Minda Stonebridge is an instrument builder, instrument cluster. Then Minda Furukawa is the wiring harness. Minda Sai again in the wiring harness. KTSN, Minda KTSN is the plastic molding. PT Minda Automotive Limited, we have PT Minda Automotive Limited Indonesia. From there we are catering to the Yamaha and other Asian markets. And then from Vietnam also we are catering to the customers. Then Ashok Minda Management Security Services Limited, Uzbekistan, Minda Uzbekistan, and Minda Automotive Solutions Limited, which we take care for the aftermarket. And these are our plant location. We have one plant in Germany, one in Poland, one in Uzbekistan, one is Vietnam, one in Indonesia. We have 27 plants in India, and representative office in Russia, and engineering and marketing office in Japan. And we have our group corporate in the Gurgaon, and these are our plant locations, and all our segments to whom we are catering, we are very near to our customers. And since we are the assembly unit, we are not manufacturing. We are sourcing out all the parts now from our sources, from our vendors, and we are assembling it and we are giving it to suppliers. So supplier base becomes a major challenge for us. As on date, we are having some 865 suppliers in the beginning of the 2014 March 2014, we are having the total supplier base of 864, which we are planning to reduce down to 721. And then our further targeted to reduce it to 350 or 400 by 2017-18. That does not mean that we will not keep on adding the suppliers. Probably from this we can reduce 50%, 60%, but we will we will keep on adding the suppliers in the system also, and we are deleting the system, because as on date the major challenge for the tier 1 also to develop the tier 2 in a big way, which is a talk of the town as on date. OEM has developed a tier 1, but tier 1 has not developed anything. Tier 1 is not in the way for developing the tier 2. So with this our effort, we are going to develop the tier 2 suppliers also, and down the line tier 3 also we will see if at all it can be worked out in that. And as far as the total buying Pareto is concerned, our annual buying is approximately 1400 crores in the last financial year, across all the commodities, say wiring, zamag. It includes raw material also, wiring, zamag, components, everything. Total our buying was around approximately 1400 crores. So as I told earlier also, for us, since we are the assembly unit and we source all the components from our suppliers, we don't manufacture anything. So supply chain become a buzzword for us. So now we have to look each penny from where we can get out of it, from where we can get the cost benefit out of it. So supply chain optimization becomes the major buzzword for us per se, for the Minda Corporation or the Minda Group, as they say, and probably for everybody as on date. Supply chain optimization is basically optimal placement of inventory within the supply chain, and to control the manufacturing cost. And this includes manufacturing cost, transportation cost, distribution cost, everything. Supply chain optimization addresses the general supply chain challenges of delivering the product to the customer at the lowest cost and the highest profit. This is also one of the major challenges. And then trading of the cost of inventory, transportation, distribution, and manufacturing, and optimizing storage and packaging. Definitely it is going to be the buzzword, because packaging and storage is going to plays a major role, because as a manufacturer, as an assembly unit also, our work is only to produce the component. Storage and stores is not ours, baby. So we are working on that also. We are in terms of discussion with the third party logistics also. It's on the very, very preliminary stages, but we are working on that. Before, these are the challenges what we said, but these are the supply chain optimization what we are talking about. But before that, there are certain challenges which in SCM probably everybody is facing. First one is that living with the fluctuating forecast, plan as per the forecast and schedule as per the demand. This is the major challenge. Constant pressure of cost reduction on the supply chain. As we are sourcing all the components, anything and everything for the cost, where the cost pressure comes from the customer, first thing goes to the purchaser. Since you are buying the product, you see the efficiency at your end. From where you are going to bring the cost, from where you are going to get the cost benefit. So this has become the major challenge for us. And then customer focus is also shifting. Customer requirement is also changing day by day. Earlier they were requiring 1 day material, now 4 hours material. Now they are asking material on the hourly basis. They don't want to keep any material. So this also is a major challenge. And system complexity. Earlier there was only 1 model, 2 model, 10 model, 15 model, but now the variety of the models has been increased. And the system has become complex, and success in the SAP is only 37. This is as per the historical data. Because as on date, even today, we are using the SAP only for the financial and only for the incoming material. For inbound, for in between, we are not using that efficiently. So that also gives the challenge for us how to make the utilization of the SAP in that system. And the inventory, both good and bad. Though there is nothing called good inventory, but still in the fluctuating market, when demand is so much fluctuating, some inventory which we can see replacement can be done after 1 or 2 months, that we can call it as a good inventory. And these are some techniques which we are adopting for the better supply chain optimization. Since we are a multi-locational plant and a different products, and we are very near to our customers. So we have decided, okay, rather than going for sourcing everything from the one supplier to a supplier, we have decided, okay, we will go for the 2 supplier base, minimum 2 suppliers of each and every commodity in each and every region. And since we are on the SAP, so we are running the MRP on the weekly basis to fine-tune the schedule of the suppliers so that we can meet the customer demand. strictly and ensure inventory of more than 90 days should not be there in the system. This has been monitored at the highest level in our organization. High level, when I say it has been organized, it has been reviewed even by the chairman of the group. Where is the inventory? Because inventory is the major concern. For that, we have the flexible costing module, barcode implementation from supplier premises till customer dispatches. This we have started. Recently, we have kicked off this activity. From where supplier, we have given the portal to the supplier. He will take the schedule from the portal. He will scan the schedule. He will send that much on quantity, and then we will send it. It will come to our line, or automatically all the internal paperwork will be completed, and then it will go on the line. So it will have the traceability of the material even when the problem on the material comes in the later stage. And then milk run we are following, elimination of warehouses and inbound logistics, and single window suppliers for the multiple process. And these are the certain benefits definitely we have attained. It helped us in the better planning and scheduling, decision making, network optimization, increase in profitability, supplier involvement in innovation and improvement, and make the product always available to the customers. Means reduction in the premium freight. As we said, there is fluctuation in the demand, so scheduling is the key. So these are the standard practices which everybody is following. Classification of the items in the ABCD, minimum maximum level, scheduling strategy, schedule driven or consumption driven. So basically, for wherever the consumption driven is there we are not going as per the MOQ. We are planning, we are taking only that much component, that much is required by the customer. But that becomes over a period of time, that becomes a very huge inventory, and then after 1 year we find it that it has gone everything in the dead inventory. And as of now, because of this effort, as on date, we don't have any dead inventory in our plant, only except barring one project which we voluntarily have quitted from the system. And it helped us in the making the decisions, what products, which, from where and what design should be there, how much, when, where and from whom to buy, how much, when, where to produce, when, where to store, inventory levels and MOQ. Since we have the aftermarket plant also, where the requirement comes in as low as 10 numbers, 15 numbers, 20 numbers. So rather than manufacturing at all other locations, we have clubbed everything at the one location and dedicated to open one unit for that. So it helped us in the reduction of inventory, and even in that plant we don't have any dead inventory as on date. And this helps us in increase the profitability. Inventory reduction always gives us the increase in profitability. Optimization is storage and packaging. And if you see with this, we were at the inventory level of 280 million in the beginning of this financial year. April 2014, we opened with the inventory of 280 million, which we came down to 240 million, 230 million. There are probably 50 million reduction in the industry. And this is a milk run which we are following with our NCR-based suppliers also, who are the major suppliers for us. Though as of now it is managed by us, but we are in the process of even outsourcing this activity. 3 days maximum stock at the warehouse also, we are not going to keep it. Because it is being managed by us, so the day it dispatched from the supply, it comes in our inventory. So we are in the process of discussion with the third parties who can pick the material from the supplier end and keep it warehousing at Chennai plant, near Pune plant. And then from there we are working whether it will be from the third party logistic supplier will supply the component to us, or each and every supplier will take the excise registration, what all formalities they will complete and they will do from there. We are in the process of discussion with that. And this, as we said earlier, multiple operations with single supplier. It's a classic example. We are supplying this handle holder assembly to the Bajaj Auto, where we were buying the material, we were giving it for the casting, then again it was coming, again we were going for machining, then again it was coming. So total 10 operations were there before it was going to the customer. But now we have identified the supplier who is doing the casting. He itself does the all secondary operations and powder coating, give it to us, and thus reduce our total cycle time, total 10 steps reduced to 3. It helped us in terms of long lead time, unwanted flow of the material, because all the material was going on the job work, so it was material reconciliation was the big hassle. So everything has been converted into outright sale, for outright purchase from the customer, from the supplier, and supply to the customer. So these are the, and as far as packaging are concerned, earlier we were using the corrugated boxes. Corrugated boxes we converted into PP boxes where life will be more. And then from PP boxes now we have moved with the chap bins, which is being managed by the chap. In that way we are getting two benefited. First of all, we are complying the CSR activity, and second, it is a pressure on our shop people also, our purchasers also, to plan the material as much only they want. They cannot keep the material in the stock, because at the end of the day we have to pay rent for that, and it is a cost. If at all it is not going to get the, we have not done it just to save the money, but at least to prune out our system and to reduce the stores. So these are the various techniques, various things which we are looking in the Minda Corporation for our supply chain optimization. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayank. I think it's a very good example of how supply chain optimization, inventory reduction, implementation of milk runs can have a very positive impact on the bottom line for a tier supplier. So thank you for all that detail. I think we've probably mentioned it, but we will distribute the presentations to all attendees, all the presentations that are allowed anyway to be distributed. You'll receive an email sometime early next week with a link to those, as well as photos and such from the conference. So just a note on that. Next up, Naveen MP from DHL Supply Chain.
Hi, good afternoon. Let me begin with a question. How many of you have come across the LLP concept? Show of hands. If familiar with the concept, come across that? All right, that's interesting. Okay, so in most of your handouts, you would see this magazine, actually. And if you go to page 50, you would see interesting article LLP. And I think Chris has supported the article as well. So here you go, head start for the article. Yeah, so before I start, I would do just a quick introduction of DHL, just to put LLP in a perspective. So I work for DHL in India. We are made of 4 divisions in India. We are a service provider, logistics service provider, and one of our 4 divisions is Express, which takes care of our shipments, international shipments. Global forwarding division, focusing on custom clearance, ocean freight, air freight, etc. I work for the supply chain division, focusing on warehousing, transport, domestic, LLP solutions. And we also have colleagues from our 4th division, Blue Dart, which you all be very familiar with, which takes care of domestic shipment and the cargo movements. So that's to just put things in perspective, and we've been in India for more than 30+ years now. Okay, so what I will do is give you a brief introduction about LLP. What does it do? What value does it add to an OEM supply chain or for any big manufacturer supply chain? And third question is, does it work? Are there proven case studies? Is that something I will address? And then we'll try and conclude from here. So it's interesting, when I had a show of hands, PricewaterhouseCoopers did a survey among all the global supply chain, among, I would say, a lot of global supply chain managers. I would say from the Fortune 500 companies, and asked them, how many of you will have an LLP by 2015? Any cases, what the percentage is actually? Take a guess. It's about 20%. 20% of the global supply chain managers said they will want to have a LLP in their supply chains by 2015. So that's a large number actually. So let me just talk about the evolution in what I would call as the supply chain. If you look at any business, you would have 4 or 5 major functions. One is, of course, you have a business strategy. The board sets the business strategy in terms of products, the markets. Then a supply chain managers, if you're working for an OEM or a large company, you would then work on your strategies for your supply chain. How much to stock, where to stock, which then translate into a sort of a more tactical plan for the supply chain. Okay, what's the IT system, etc., and then an operational plan. Traditionally, outsourcing of logistics started with, as you all know, transactional outsourcing. You would outsource movement of parts from, let's say, A to B. Very, very transactional outsourcing. To what you would see now, if you look at a classical 3PL RFQ outsourcing, you're talking about an outsourcing a warehouse, for example. Not transactional, but a long-term. But again, it's a definitive scope in place. For example, distribution contract. And LLPs is also considered as a next step in outsourcing evolution, where you're not just outsourcing your operations or planning. You're also outsourcing a lot of your planning and a little bit of strategy as well. That's how LLP is considered as, I would say, globally as evolution of outsourcing as well. Again, people are already starting talking about a next step in outsourcing evolution, where you talk about outsourcing even what is traditionally a core competency, product testing, your QA. I think that's, again, a lot of next steps is being talked about already. So going back, so what's an LLP? An LLP is a sort of a layer which acts like an extended arm of an OEM or a big manufacturer, and who in turn collaborates with a host of 3PL to deliver the planning and execution and management for a large OEM. I'm talking about an sort of OEM with 4 plants, 5, 6 plants, massive supply chains, multiple 3PLs, new plants being introduced. Take the case of Ford, for example, new plants coming up. They have lots of planning to do. And here's where an LLP steps in and say, hey, look, let me try and do the planning for you. So the OEM focuses more on strategy, setting the direction, and the LLP does the planning, execution, and monitors the operations for them. So that's the sandwich layer of LLP that we're talking about. In our world, we sort of consider 5 key modules for any LLP. One is a crucial design plan phase, where the LLP acts as a planner. Typically, you would see then outsourcing, the plans are made by the OEM and say, okay, look, I need a facility in Bangalore, and that's something frozen. But in an LLP case, you sort of let the LLP decide the network as your partner. Manage, coordinate, very crucial, definitely from Indian perspective, is how do you translate your plans to action on the ground? I think that's something, one of the key functions as an LLP does. Third part is, of course, operate and execute. Again, LLP, like a 4PL, does not always operate by itself, but it works with a host of 3PLs, monitors them operationally, and makes the work easier for the OEM. Very important, continuous improvements. In any large supply chain, it is very important to take the feedback from your operations and feed it back to your planning and tactical and strategic plans. Most important module of all is, I guess we would all agree in Asia, is change management. A lot of LLP is about how do you change from where you are to where you want to be. I think that's a very integrated, very crucial module of any LLP program. 3 values where LLP provides. What's the value? I think that's a key question as well for a lot of the supply chain managers here. First, as I said, strategic value. An LLP does a lot of planning, new model introduction, new plant coming up, new network changes. It's operational, very crucial that if you can do a lot of planning, but if you don't hit your KPIs and operational KPIs, it doesn't have any value. So the key deliverable of LLP is also make sure that your supply chain KPIs are met or improved. I think that's very important. Third crucial point we talked about in the survey as well, cost reduction. LLP is very focused on cost. One of the key, depending on how the LLP is configured, one of the key deliverable is how much cost can you significantly take off in the supply chain, and that's after setting off the LLP costs. The most crucial part of LLP program is, from my experiences, is not a short-term program. It's a long-term program. When I say long-term, it's a 5-year program. And you would typically start you see cost benefits pouring in at the end of year 1 and 2. It's not a quick fix. It's not a panacea for sure. It's not one-stop solution for everybody. And it's also not a quick fix that where you'll see, 6 months, you would see your whole cost down. It's a very long-term and collaborative program, but you would definitely see cost reduction program in the long run. So the next question is, does it work? Yes, definitely. So I picked up one example from Europe. I'll talk about one example from India as well. This is from a very, very large automotive OEM from our LLP programs in the Europe. As you can see, it's about managing the inbound supply chain for 10 plus plants, 1,000 plus shipments being picked up every day. As you can see, the planning, the coordination is massive here. And on top of this, the new models being introduced, new plants coming up. Somebody has to do the planning, somebody has to manage a host of 3PLs and save cost. So this program has been successfully running in Europe, for example, for the last 15, 16 years, saving about, as you can see, 300 million plus for the customer and OEM here. The question is, again, we just said we are 90% of us said we are very far away from Europe, Can we do such a program in India? Yes, absolutely. We have delivered similar programs in India for OEMs, big, large OEMs, where we have reduced cost as well, And it's not only about, it's about thinking, why not, in this program. It's about being the thought leader. For example, for a large, construction OEM in India, there was a lot of movement of fabricated parts, which is like sometimes bulky, odd-shaped, and traditionally, a lot of the 9-tonner, the normal 18, 20 trucks, 20-footer trucks were used. We ran a program for them. We have delivered significant savings, and this is one example from the program where we just, let's say we said, oh, let's do this transportation differently. We sort of, custom-made a truck, 40-footer, curtain-sider. And when you're visiting Pune or Gurgaon, you would see some of these trucks running, where we said we modified the packaging. And end result was we can actually shave off 8% of the freight cost for the OEM, whilst also reducing the transit time. Yep, it is possible in India, definitely. And we have delivered savings in India. And change management in India is also the key. So this program does work in India and Asia as well. In summary, as I said, it's not a short-term program. It works with a lot of trust between the OEM and the LLP. Takes over 3 to 5 years of partnership to deliver savings on the cost. Trust and collaboration, again, it's very key. It's a lot about sharing your data upfront with LLP. It's like, okay, these are my product plans 3 years down the line. Can you be prepared? Change is very, very crucial because how can you do cost savings and do things differently if you're not willing to change your process, if you're not willing to change the way you've been working for the last 5 years. Change management is essential for the whole program. And again, this is a program that runs very well when there is a top-down sponsorship. Again, this is a program typically sponsored by the board levels and say, okay, this I sponsor it. So it gets a lot of executive support as well. In summary, LLP programs deliver 3 benefits to big OEMs and manufacturers for sure. One is strategic planning support, very crucial when you're talking about 2 times growth, 30% growth year on year. Operational, as you grow, you still have to achieve your KPIs, operational performance. Trucks have to arrive on time. Third, you're making sure when you're increasing the volumes, different products, you still have to save costs. So that's what the program will deliver, and it's a proven product. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Naveen. Another just-in-time presentation again, as the clock just went down just as you finished. So that's definitely a sign of a good lead logistics service provider, I think, right, when they hit it right on the dot. Thanks for the plug on the article. For those of you who haven't read it yet, that is just trying to explore what the concept means kind of globally. Of course, DHL is a very important player in the LLP space, but obviously the article deals with other regions and companies as well. Next up, probably the only name I'm going to pronounce 100% correctly today, Colin Howard from Goodpack.
Just a minute. Thank you. Thank you very much, Christopher, and thank you very much to all of you for coming to the conference and taking time out to listen to me. As Christopher said, my name is Colin Howard. I am the sales director for a company, Goodpack. This was the long title that I was given by Multimedia, by Auto Logistics, to talk about utilization of technology process to drive supply chain optimization. Wow, which is quite good for a packaging company, because normally when we come to the conferences, we get to talk about the box. Now, you're not going to see a picture of a box, because what I want to take you through is some stories that we've been working on the international stage, is how we've been able to get the box into the automotive industry. Now, it's quite important, because if you think about what we've seen today so far, we've seen the Indian industry, which is going to be dominated by growth of exports, a number of imports, huge volumes going out to already major markets, Europe and USA, that I picked up. And also we've heard that already logistics costs in India are 30% higher than China. So there's a need to do something. So please, if you just bear with me, I've got about 8 minutes and 45 seconds left to get through this, but I hope that it gives you some flavor of how we are working with certain customers around the world and some of the exciting news that we've got to talk about. Now, if anyone who doesn't know Goodpack, Goodpack today specializes in providing standardized packaging for global freight movements. So we work over a number of different sectors. And it basically means our metal box, the one that you can see out in the foyer, and that's my plug for this session, basically circumnavigates the world with a number of different freight in there: chemicals, synthetic rubber, natural rubber, and automotive parts. Which means we come from the basis of having a standardized box. Nothing standard throughout all of the industries. What is common is none of the industries actually get what they want, but they all get fantastic savings and, in fact, a returnable product. When we started the auto industry, in the auto industry some 4 years ago, we came in and we thought we were talking about packaging. We said, here's a box. We were directed to packaging engineers and we spoke about the box. We spoke about returnable packaging. We weren't getting a lot of traction. We went away and redefined the way that we sold our business. And what we realized was that we had a product which optimized the space inside the sea container. We then came up with a series of different models and positioned the box not just to the packaging engineering community, but to the wider community. The P&L owners, the plant owners, the supply chain people, and really came up with a vision as to what packaging can do. What I'm going to show you is 3 cases, and the first is I'm going to demonstrate to you that it's more than just a box. That the right returnable pack, the right one-way pack, the right reusable pack, and I'm not that fussed to talk to you about which one is right. What I want to get across to you is the fact it's about making the right decisions and including the bigger part of the process, not just designing the box for the part. What I'm going to show you is some ideas very quickly on how choosing the right box can actually reduce transport spend, how it can reduce warehouse costs, and how it can improve supply chain visibility. Wow, that's pretty good for a box, right? And if we bring all of that, what the natural conclusion is actually deciding on what the right box will be, whether it is one way, whether it is a multi-use box, whether that be returnable and reusable. And I define the difference between returnable and reusable as returnable as coming back to its source in very much of a closed loop, and a reusable bin which then goes on to do other things, whether it's within an automotive network or whether it's in a multi-use network. So these are some ideas for you to consider. This is what we found. Reducing transport spend. A lot of people in the community, in the automotive community, talk about cube utilization. In fact, what they're talking about is external cube utilization and not what we call is liquid fill. So we challenge this notion. We show people what they've actually got inside the sea container that they can physically use for using parts. Today we have a lot of wood, we have a lot of plastic. We can challenge that and we can go over to more other products like metal products. And we've also redefined the rules for the current processes. What we see today is we normally have roadblocks. We hear things like, we can't store it because we have racking. We can't use it line side because it's the wrong size. So we are being channeled by a lot of the final mile conversations, which is affecting the cost of logistics. And as we've heard today, our logistics costs are going up, but our challenge is how we deal with the plant. By taking a total view of the supply chain model, we're actually to demonstrate that a lot of these things which are seen as not being value are actually, in terms of the total cost analysis, can actually bring value to the process. Which means today that we have clients in Europe who traditionally would not repack the component, who are in fact repacking the component. And when we look at it as an overall logistics savings, we can actually demonstrate results now which are saving between 10 and 15% of the logistics savings. Which if we calculate that through, that logistics is about 15% of the international freight costs, is about a 3% component saving. That's a great way of getting your packaging adopted, your packaging changes adopted. But more fundamental than that, we've seen sea containers coming off the water, and with all the paperwork constraints, that's important. And we've also seen where we've actually converted, and you might be surprised by this one, from 40-foot sea containers to 20-foot sea containers, and we can get more parts in the 20-foot sea container than we could originally in the 40-foot sea container, just because we're challenging the norms. The second area that I'd like to challenge you on is warehouse costs. Today we pick packaging which goes nicely inside a nice warehouse. But again, it's affecting our logistics costs, because a lot of the pack sizes that we're seeing there, which are defined, certainly as you'll find for European warehouses, are not conducive to the sizes for optimization of sea containers. We have projects running between South Africa and Germany now, where in Germany they have actually removed the warehousing because they can get far better utilization of that space, and they can turn that space into manufacturing just by going to a container that can stack 5 high as opposed to a traditional wood or cardboard container that can stack 2 high or more. So as we see growth of international freight becoming higher, we have 2 options. We can either increase warehouse space, or we can find alternatives, and we can use packaging as part of that conversation. The other thing the multi-use box is doing is it allows us to get better technology. Today, we're seeing more and more returnable packs being fitted with RFID tags. It's there, it works. Other industries are adopting it. Today in France, for the synthetic rubber organizations, they are scanning every box which is coming in, and they are no longer using the label on the box to identify the product that's inside it. It's there. It's things that we can do. We can make the box intelligent. It allows us to speed up the processes of getting through the warehousing. It allows us to get to the product quicker, and it allows us to stop those complex issues of having to find out what part is in the box. So here, our success stories here are showing that we've actually, by changing the box, and this is a lovely story, it was a cardboard box designed too high, specifically to go inside the sea container. By switching that cardboard box to a metal box, which allowed us to go 4 or 5 high in the sea container, not only could we get more parts in the sea container, but we could reduce the warehouse space by up to around 40 to 60%. What that means is that company has not had to take on off-site warehousing, and it means that they're able to free up that space to much needed volume increases to support their growth within the OEM market. That is a huge cost saving. I couldn't even begin to put a number against that. The last area is supply chain visibility. Often when we go to multi-use packaging, returnable packaging, the fear is, this is going to cost me extra. I'm going to lose visibility. In reality, we can turn that on its head. We hear a lot of talk about inventory, reducing inventory. How do we get cash flow better? What we're seeing is that now, of course, our box has become intelligent. Our box now has track and trace on it. Typically, when we start conversations, we say, how long's your cycle time? They tell us it's 60 days. If I tell you today that against a 60-day cycle time, we're actually working with one client who's taking 110 days. When we start working now, we now have tri-party conversations between ourselves, the supplier, and the end user to drill down on that. There is so much hidden inventory in the process, it's unbelievable. None of that is reported. So if there's ever a quality problem or an engineering change, whereas the OEM would be expecting it done in a certain amount of time, you can imagine how much longer it's going to take. So we get improved areas there. It helps us to unleash those inventory roadblocks. And the final one you might find quite interesting. Typically when we buy a wooden box or a cardboard box, it is the supplier who pays for it. That packaging will incur a number of duties and additional taxes when we send it out. There is a change taking place around the world today where it's not being the supplier who is paying for the packaging, it is the end user who is paying for that packaging. He now has got more control over how many packs are being given out to supplier, but more importantly, through clever technology on the track and trace systems, he is able now to avoid some of the duty payments. Again, bringing down the cost of packaging. So that's it. I've done about 11 and a half minutes, but I'm a packaging guy, Christopher, which is why I got thrown out of logistics. But the last thing I want to leave you with, look, it's a great time to be exploring these. I wish I had longer to talk to you, but thank you for listening to me. But is it a box? No, it's more than just a box for supply chain optimization. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Colin. Normally I have like a trap door, a button that I press and the speaker falls right, but I'll let you slide on that one because you had a lot of interesting stuff to say there. Seriously, no, it was some great case studies there, some interesting examples, I think, of that things that probably subvert some of the norms, things that we expect in a packaging, a returnable or reusable packaging system. So thank you for that, and I'm sure there's more time to discuss in the Q&A or offline afterwards. We have one more presentation before we will move on to some Q&A. Now I'd like to invite Hari Sivaprakasam from UTI.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I think it's the hardest session to get going after lunch, but I'll make it very quick. Probably I won't take all the 10 minutes. My name is Hari Sivaprakasam. I'm from UTI. UTI is a global integrated logistics provider. We're going to talk about the topic of how to optimize your inbound supply chain. Okay. Now, inbound supply chain can mean a lot of things depending on whether you are an OEM or a tier 1. So here, this is based on talking about an inbound supply chain into an auto OEM plant. Okay, so if you are a manufacturing company, if you are a car manufacturer, then how does your inbound supply chain look like? Where a lot of tier 1s and supply and logistics providers are part of that supply chain coming in. So that's really the high level view of how that scope looks like. So you have domestic suppliers, right, feeding into the plant directly, or they are going through an an offsite consolidation warehouse before it gets into the plant. And then you also have the overseas suppliers who are feeding into the plant. So what can you do in this area to better increase quality, to reduce your cost? How can you increase the effectiveness of this portion of the supply chain is what we are going to look at. What I'll do is I'll just talk about 3 case studies or examples of what we have done with some of our clients, which might get some thought process going for you, which might be applicable for your business. Okay. So first one is pretty generic. It is not just meant for inbound supply chain. It can be used for any parts of the business, whether you are a logistics provider, whether you are a car manufacturer, tier 1 supplier, then this applies, which is replication of best practices globally. A lot of people talk about it, but how effectively it can be done, right? There should be some structure for this, and that's what we're going to talk about very quickly now. So in UTI, especially for the automotive vertical, we are structured in a way that this replication can be managed successfully. We have the auto team, which is auto vertical, which kind of brings a matrix between all the businesses, whether it is a freight movement or warehousing, transportation, and then likewise with they have the different vertical leads for different regions. So if you look at this chart here, we have the different auto leads for different regions, and then all the operational teams fall on the right side. And then the customer, basically the logo inside is basically the operations. Okay, what is that particular site or that particular operation, what it is delivering. So if we are able to have that necessary sponsorship, and we have our automotive team kind of acting as a conduit between businesses in different regions, then it becomes easy to replicate these practices across the globe. That's really how we are organized to make it happen. And these are just some examples. So you can see like different portions of supply chains. You can talk about materials management, supplier management, in-plant logistics, manufacturing support. So if you look at plain warehousing, if you look at it, we have some examples of global OEMs where business has been replicated from one particular continent to a different continent here in most cases. Okay. So now, how do we do it, and what is the case study here? One of the interesting case studies that we had recently is with Ford. We have an operation for them in Thailand, which is basically exporting parts and made by suppliers and Ford to 5+ markets. Okay, so they are full car parts where the localization has happened in Thailand, but export is happening from there to different markets for final assembly. Now that operation has been in place for quite some time. We process around 1,000 containers a month from that facility. Now we had to set up a very similar operation in Chennai for EcoSport. There was a lot of conversation on EcoSport earlier in the day about how a lot of the volume was going outside of India. So actually this facility is sending EcoSport pots to Thailand, Russia and Vietnam and other places for final assembly there. So here what we did was, since we were already managing the Thailand operation, right at the start of the discussion itself, we got, the India team got involved with the Thailand team for solutions design. What's the process flow? What is the material flow? Productivity? What kind of staffing? What are the service level requirements? Supplier compliance? Those discussions happened right at the start during the solutions design and as well as in implementation. We had a team from Chennai go and spend extensive time in Thailand learning the process, and then coming back, and we brought back some resources from Thailand into India to actually help with the operation. They were part of the operations startup team. Instead of just giving high level guidance, they were part of the team at the site, helping set up the local operation and training the people locally. And that was very successful in terms of a startup, and it was it went very well from a Ford perspective as well. Now the most important thing here from a client viewpoint, they didn't have to spend a lot of time trying to coach us through what are the requirements in India. So you're handling something for us somewhere else, how can you bring the best practices into India? So that was the kind of the approach there. So and then that again goes into a lot of continuation after the implementation phase, in terms of metrics, in terms of continuous improvement. How do you take it from one location and take it to another location in a more systematic manner? So that's just one example of it. I think the message here is, if there is a proper structure to replication, no matter which segment that you fall in, I think it can be used very successfully and reduce time on startups, and that can lead to a lot of improvement in quality and cost savings. Very quickly is next one is integration of inbound logistics for increased service level. So one other interesting case study is with Volkswagen in Pune. We actually UTI handles all the just-in-time materials that is coming into the plant in Chakan, Pune. So those are some of the suppliers that are mentioned there, where we bring the parts. So it involves warehousing, for the sequencing, primary transportation, secondary transportation. Some of the flows goes through the warehouse, some goes directly to the plant, depending on how far the warehouse is located, the supplier is located from the plant. Now this whole program is managed by one service provider, which is UTI in this case. And what it has done is, it has given a lot of benefits for Volkswagen. Instead of trying to work with multiple suppliers and trying to coordinate all the movements, now they are able to talk to one supplier, in this case a logistics provider, and get the benefits out of it. If you look for them, there is a better purchasing power, reduction in cost, because the economies of scale is more. Their quality has gone up as well. Last 17 out of the 20 months, the operation has been running at Six Sigma levels. It's actually at 0 defects per million opportunities for the 17 of 20 months, and that's a pretty good performance in a manual environment in India, with respect to a lot of uncertainties in the supply chain. So again, the message here is, this is not something that many OEMs are doing in India. Outside of India it's pretty common, but here there is a lot of opportunity there, not only for OEMs but from tier 2s to tier 1s as well. We're doing this for Faurecia in Chennai, where we are doing one stop solution for them, coming from tier 2s to their particular plant, and then from them to Ford. So that whole program is, that we can see, is generating cost savings, and as well as giving the quality that Faurecia wants, both on the inbound side and as well as on the outbound side. So the message here is, whether you're a tier 1 or an OEM, think about how you can kind of integrate your inbound function, as opposed to having 5 or 6 different people trying to supply. How can you integrate it better? I think there are a lot of opportunities to again increase effectiveness, basically, in that area as well. That's the second concept. Third one is just look at it. Sometimes you have to spend a little bit more money to save even more money. Okay, so that's just having a holistic approach. This again example goes back to the Ford that we talked about with respect to the export DC in Chennai. We were trying to consolidate material from around 70 suppliers in Chennai region, and the material was going to, like I said, Thailand and Russia and Vietnam. But here the challenge was, there was lack of proper warehousing right next to Ford, because that area has quickly turned into a residential area over the last few years, and warehousing space was far away. So basically the two teams worked together, and when we did the network study of consolidating all this material, taking it, stuffing it in a container, taking it to port, and then putting it across the ocean to Thailand, it's a huge, it's a extended supply chain, but the key cost was happening on the India side, because of all the consolidation that was happening. So the network study quickly told us it's better to have the consolidation point closer to the supplier base and Ford. So because there was a building not available, we worked together with Ford and we kind of put up a build-to-suit facility. Usually build-to-suit means, you are designing something that's specific to your requirements rather than what is typically available in the market, and the cost is going to be slightly higher probably. So, but what it ended up doing was a lot of savings in terms of transportation costs for Ford in terms of consolidation. So I guess again the message here is, if you look at each aspect of the supply chain, whatever that process might be individually, probably will end up spending more money. But whatever is the area for which you are responsible for within your company, take that extent of what you're responsible for and look at it holistically, as opposed to trying to optimize piece by piece. Then probably there is better opportunities for again saving money or increasing quality, right? Two important things. So those are just 3 examples that we have experienced. Thought we'll share with the audience here today. If it is applicable for you, some good learnings can be taken away from this, then we'll be happy. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Harry. I think another interesting set of case studies, obviously real-life case studies where integrated solutions have been effective. I think I see a link a little bit between the message from DHL and UTI about a certain amount of trust and sharing of strategy and sharing of plans between an OEM and a logistics provider. I know it's not always an easy thing to do, but it does seem that it can pay off in the long run. We have some time, because our speakers were all remarkably on time, I think, except for Colin, obviously almost ruining it, but now everyone really kept to their time perfectly. So we actually, despite having quite a big panel, we still have about 10 minutes for Q&A. So I would like to invite anyone who has any questions now to put your hand up. We have a question in the front.
I'm Girish Bhobe from spare parts of Mahindra and Mahindra. My question is, a part of our this reusable or returnable packing, or in the integration of inbound and outbound logistics, what is your experience in India and globally in general? It is specific to spare part movement.
I think in spare parts, I hope this is working, I think in spare parts, returnable packaging, unless it's your own packaging, there is a problem because of the uncertainty of the time that it's going to be spent in the warehouse. And the honest answer is that you're going to be paying for a pack. Well, you're going to be paying for a pack which you've got no control over. The only way of doing it is to use the pack as the primary, so you get improved freight consolidation, and then take it out of the primary pack and put it onto some form of a marketplace or pallet like that. That would work. But then it comes down to how many times you want to handle the product for the spare part, and also what infrastructure. So it can work, but you must think about getting rid of the returnable pack as quickly as possible. Otherwise, it's going to become cost ineffective.
Well, in terms of inbound and outbound supply chain for spare parts as well, I think especially in aftermarkets, looking at the outbound delivery schedule, we just did a project for a different company where took the volumes pan India, all the locations. So they had hubs in different places of India. Looking at from that warehouse where the material is going, typically you have networks of dealer networks which are close by to where you have the distribution center, and then you have the extended area as well. Like for example, Chennai might be a hub for you, Mumbai might be a hub, and then you serve Gujarat or other places from Mumbai. So really spending some time on that design of that delivery milk route, I think can have a lot of opportunities to save some money there if it is properly done, because a lot of times we find that there are a lot of one-off movements where trucks are running, small trucks are running only to one supplier. Instead you could be able to do a milk run or a multi-stop load. You can build something that is going to serve 3 or 4 dealers, let's say in Ahmedabad coming out of Mumbai, might save you more money. So spending some time on that, I think, is worthwhile. On the inbound side, really depends on whether it is an domestically made pots or whether it is getting imported from overseas. That's a little bit uncertain. But on the outbound side, there is quite a bit of opportunities to save money on the milk delivery.
Thanks for that. Milind, I'm not sure if your responsibilities involve spare parts, if you had any points that you wanted to add onto that.
For spare part, generally we use returnable. We don't use returnable, mainly expendable packaging only, because once it goes to dealer, it takes a lot of time to sell those components.
Right.
So we can't predict estimated time for keeping at various location. So usually we go for expendable packaging.
Thank you. I think we have a question right here in the front.
The question is for this is Venugopal from Mahindra and Mahindra. In fact, I am with the spares logistics for inbound and outbound of Mahindra Group. This question is for Mr. Colin. You pointed out one of the in your slides that re-engineering payments to remove taxes. Can you explain me what is in detail with an example?
Yeah, I can. I can take about 3 hours to explain it as well. Look, what's becoming evident is, and it's an example which is currently being used between Europe and the USA, and also between Europe and China, South Africa, which is where they've changed the end user for the payment. So the box is being paid for by the end user, and because of that, and because it's being declared as a temporary box, and therefore it's free issue to the supplier, it doesn't have to be declared on the B&L for duty payments. Now, we thought it only applied to the box itself, but it actually applies to the complete load. And there is a sizable saving per sea container in doing that. Now, this is still very, very early days, and we're still flushing it through. But we think it's unlocking quite an exciting proposition for companies now to consider how their supply chains are laid out and who pays for it. Because ultimately, you're paying for everything anyway. It's only apportionment of cost. But what you want is the lowest possible and best way of getting that product to your production lines. So ultimately, who pays for the pack shouldn't be the issue. So I think it's something which is going to be worth following very, very well. I know certainly for Indian exports going into the USA, it could be very, very attractive. And it must be, because it's working very well going into China from Europe as well. And that's what I've got it based on. So I would say keep in touch with us, watch this space, and we'd be happy to share more information as it moves forward. But I think the point of the argument is we shouldn't accept the current way that if we have to buy a wooden pack today by the supplier, he buys that because he buys it locally. When you move into a returnable world or a multi-use packaging world, you've got to think about all aspects and not just the packaging cost to get to where the real value is in changing over the packaging solution. There will be. That's all I can say at the moment. We will be moving forward with an example in India export coming over the next few months. So maybe when I come next year, we might have some more information around that we can actually share. But it is something, more than happy to talk to you more about it outside. So we can spend some time over coffee if you'd like. Okay.
Hey, thanks for the question and to the response there. Please.
Hello, myself Harshvardhan. I am from Packaging Department, Center of Excellence, Mahindra. And my question is to Hari and Naveen. While designing a complete supply chain solution, what's your approach towards the packaging in terms of optimization and decision on expendable or returnable, and designing the optimized solution for that complete? In system, what's your approach toward the packaging?
Okay, sorry, name I forgot. Hey, hi, Harsh. So Harsh, as I said, our LLP modules, we sort of then break it up into multiple projects. For example, one of the case studies I presented, right? So in this case, we realized there's a lot of space to be saved or utilization to be increased in a truck. But that was only possible by changing the packaging. So we went ahead and changed the packaging. And that means we had a better truck fill rate. And we were able to use a much bigger truck with a much bigger fill rate. And that actually led to a whole cost reduction, you know. So we sort of look at if this pack change going to give us significant benefits in, you know, let's say damages in cost and utilization, then yes, we then sort of go into then packaging change as well for that product. Absolutely, yeah. Similarly for export projects, you know, if it involves, let's say one of our projects we're doing about 100 containers a month, a lot of big spend over to the Europe. So we look at container fill rate, you know, so we look at if we change the packaging from the current X to Y, you know, some cost would actually go up. But then if you look at the holistic cost of taking the product from A to B, you know, including the inventory in transit, the damages, potential damage reduction, the freight and the packaging spend, then overall there is a lot of time and space and cost reduction. So then we go ahead and do that. Absolutely.
So you have a team for packaging, team to take all of this type of.
Yes, we do have a couple of packaging engineers with us, so who work on this sort of projects to really, you know, drive it down. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think just to add on to what Naveen said, you know, as a logistics provider, I think we get a lot of opportunity to see impacts of packaging, whether it is within a box or within a container or a truck. I think the most important way in which we approach it is, look, getting the material in and out is part of bread and butter of what we need to do. What is the value that we are giving to our clients, and packaging becomes an important portion of that. So we kind of, to get that thought process going, we really incentivize our operations people to focus on deliverables like this, so they can discuss collaboratively with the clients and come up with different ways of improving their operations, which is very important from a continuous improvement standpoint. So from a packaging standpoint, we approach it in two different ways. We have a set of engineers within UTI in different places as a part of our supply chain and innovation group, design and innovation group, who are packaging engineers who have a lot of experience in working with different channel partners on how to, you know, improve the packaging design. You know, what kind of programs can help you save money. There is one example for GM from Europe to Africa where we are saving a lot of money right now, and our people are involved in the packaging design. The second approach we take is we also partner with other packaging companies, like what he's doing here, and we work with a company in India as well, where we together, like there are projects where we have worked together with the tier 1s and OEMs, because they are also doing the same kind of service to the OEMs and tier 1s like we are. They are a service provider, so we sit and collaborate with them to see you know, what value that we can bring. So either it is through our own people or through channel partners on the packaging side. But that's definitely a major area of focus, especially in a place like India. I think there's a lot of savings to be had there.
Okay, thank you. Okay, another question here.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Vaibhav. I have two questions. One for Naveen. Naveen, lack of control is the buzzword when we talk about LLP, because many customers have a back of the mind that they will control the entire supply chain, which is the backbone for their production. So what are your strategies to deal with that? And my second question is with Milind sir. Actually, when we are talking about returnable packaging and packaging, our prime customers are production team, and there are many a times whatever we decide as a packaging, they don't have proper machinery, or they don't want that material to be in that particular what we say in particular dimension. They want part dimension to be in the different way so that tackle can go and pick it up the part. So how we means what is beneficial in long run, either proper packaging or satisfying to your production team or a customer?
Hi, Web. I think you asked a really relevant question there. So our perspective is that the whole program works on trust and collaboration. And you're right. You know, how do we start the journey? You know, one of the things we do is first try and establish a team with a firewall. That means apart from signing a non-disclosures agreement, what we do is the team working on, let's say, for a custom LLP team, they ensure that what are the systems they're working on, the data does not leave them, not even within the same company. So they almost act as a sort of a external arm of our customer supply chain, and they protect the data of the customers and the documents or information, whatever. Having said that, I can only say a lot of trust builds over time. It's about working closely with an OEM over months and months to develop the trust. It takes time, along with a set of processes which ensures that the data doesn't go out and information is protected. So it's a working relationship. It takes time to build a trust. Yeah.
Hello. Yeah. Coming to your second question, whether we should give priority to production team requirement or packaging optimization. So my answer would be yes, we should give priority to your internal customer, that is a production team, and you should design a packaging in such a way that it is most convenient for their line side usage. But if you go for always go for that kind of packaging design, maybe it may not be optimized packaging for transportation. So in that case, either first thing, you can work together with production team inputs with a packaging supplier, packaging solution provider together, and work out a mutually agreeable solution. And if that is not possible, then definitely you should have a different type of packaging for line side usage and for logistics. Because again, if you design inefficient packaging for logistics, it incurs a lot of cost for transportation, and day by day this logistic cost goes on increasing. So you need to control this logistic cost also. So in that case, you should go for a different packaging.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think we'll maybe have a last question in the back.
Hi, I am Jayaprakash from JK Feiner, Logistic Manager. My question to Mr. Agarwal, sir. In your presentation, you mentioned that the 37% only use of SAP in the logistic cost monitoring. Can you explain more how your KPI are measured in from the SAP?
What I mentioned in the SAP is the actual utilization of the SAP what companies are doing as on date for the supply chain management. Supply chain management, if you see in the SAP, what companies are mainly doing in the SAP is that their financial accounting.
GRM.
They are mainly in the financial accounting, or they are using it for the incoming material, and properly with this they are getting the bits and pieces information. It is a long way journey for the implementation. 100% utilization of the SAP. 30%, 37% is the figure which has been determined by the organizations over a period of time, all adopting the SAP, and the studies has been done on them. So basically that is the only point to say it, because the system is getting so and so complex, and we are so much involved in day-to-day activity, we are not focusing particularly on that. Otherwise, if we focus particularly on the SAP for all this activity, probably we can make our life much simpler and more efficiently, and most cost reduction will come. We can focus more on the cost. So probably this will be more measurable for our KPIs also.
Okay. You are monitoring that outbound logistics service provider KPI from SAP or from Excel?
Outbound, as of now, we are not having any major outbound services, because all the customers are very next door. So we are supplying the material on the date basis, on the hourly basis, on 2 hourly basis. So as of now, outbound logistics, we are not that much involved in that. But yes, inbound logistics is an area where we have to work a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that's where we're going to have to end it now. It's been a great panel of presentations. Thank you all very much for your questions. I'd like to thank everyone again for their time. We are having coffee now. We'll be back in here, the main room, for the last session before we move on to our gala dinner. So enjoy coffee.